And this is a crazy story, and a story that will anger not only Queenslanders tomorrow, but all Australians. How could it happen? 50 offences, accused killer teens, shocking crime history. Of course, I refer to the splash in the Courier Mail. Dad unable to speak after tragic loss of daughter. Juvenile driver facing less than 10 years in prison. Premier wants to know why courts gave bail. And of course, the father of the accused has a long list of road rage and drug offences. A teenager charged with the hit-and-run murders of a young couple at Alexandra Hills recently pleaded guilty to about 50 offences, including car theft and robbery, but was only given a slap on the wrist. The 17-year-old who allegedly mowed down a pregnant Kate Leadbetter and her partner Maddie Phil was not sentenced to jail for the serious offences he committed before he was bailed on separate matters. Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk yesterday demanded to know why the alleged offender was not in custody. He faces less than 10 years in prison. Family revealed John Leadbetter is in shock over his daughter's death. Now, Leisa, the big focus during this debate has been Queensland's juvenile justice laws, the bail laws, the so-called catch and release laws. Surely they need to be looked at.
Well, first of all, it's really rich that the Premier can stand there today and hold a press conference and say, why? How can this happen? Surely the buck has to stop with her and the legislation that she has in place. Now, you go out on the beat. Now, I'm a former police reporter. You've spent your time out on the beat, right? You talk to any police officer in this state and they will tell you the law is an absolute joke. Night after night, day after day, they're picking up these kids, these juvies, and they've basically got their hands tied. They call it a revolving door. So your heart absolutely just breaks for what happened to this couple and their unborn baby. Like, really, this should be murder charges for 3, not just the mum and the dad.
It's devastating, Lisa, and I detected last year, and we covered the case of Hannah Clark and the domestic violence implications and the reform process that came as a result of that absolutely horrific crime. I get a sense that the anger within particularly the Queensland community is so palpable over this particular incident that this will actually force some change.
Well, let's hope so, because if you look at the memorial and the anger that was being expressed, and rightly so, by complete strangers, the fact that they were innocently walking their dogs on a street and mowed down. They should have been entering one of the most exciting phases of their life, right? But the system has let them down. That's where this ends. And if you talk to police officers, it's as ridiculous as if they pick up a juvenile for stealing a car or whatever other offence, robbery, breaking into a home, they cannot question them after 7 o'clock at night.
Oh.
So there are ways that they can try and work around it. But one of the questions they have to ask is, what is your bedtime? Like, how ridiculous is that? And the whole premise is they don't want, the legislation is set up, they do not want these juveniles kept in a watch house. They do not want them in custody. So you have a case where you've got a juvenile that's been picked up time and time and time again. They finally get to the court and they get a slap on the wrist. And that's exactly what we're seeing in this case. So if the anger, if the community outcry over this can actually force our politicians to actually make some real change,
it's good.
It's good.